Hello and welcome, and in today's video I'm going to share with you the top 10 most irritating Ark Tames, so let's get into it. In at number 10 is the Giganotosaurus, and the only reason why this thing really is on the list isn't mainly because its taming method is difficult per se, but Ark is an extremely buggy game and the Giganotosaurus taming method is very, very buggy, and I have had so many issues with this thing over the course of my time with this creature that sometimes I'll just go for a Giga, as I know for sure that tame won't bug out, and there's loads of things like it won't go through or it won't process the right thing at the right time, and this tame can be really annoying when it's buggy, and it can be one of the most irritating things ever because it is so simple and you'll know you're doing it right and you know it's not in a blood rage, but still it is glitching out and you're not getting anywhere, and sometimes you just need to dino wipe or find a completely different one, even though you may have spent hours already trying to tame this one and you don't know why this thing isn't taming, or you think it will take a while. No, definitely you should find another one if you're having those issues, and those issues still exist quite a lot, and I've run into a few of those as well. But if you do want to know how to tame one, you can always check out my taming guide down below, and you should definitely work out how to tame one of these things, as these things are essentially just an upgraded Giga, and once tamed, they're really powerful, really nice, little, neat carnivore. Well, not really little at all. In at number 9 is the Stalker, and the Stalker is obviously very well known for its new and intuitive taming method. This thing's taming method is pretty much like no other Ark Tame, unless you count the Desmodus now, but this thing did come out significantly before the Desmodus. Gen 1 has been out for much longer than Fjorda, but I'm sure you all know that. And how do you tame this thing? Well, the way you tame it is by feeding this thing blood bags, and gathering those blood bags, especially when you don't have a Desmodus, and especially back in the day, was really annoying as it took absolutely ages. And again, Ark is a buggy game, and sometimes the Stalker tames would simply bug out, or they would say you've done 100% of the tame, but you hadn't, and then you'd just be stuck there for absolutely ages until they did tame, or you just run out of blood bags and simply die. And also, to get 100% effectiveness is even more annoying, as you have to feed it other creatures first, which can be an absolute pain, and this is definitely one of Ark's most irritating tames. But once tamed, you actually have yourself a really great creature, and it's no wonder because people do actually tame these things, and if these were rubbish, then no one would really be taming them. And once tamed, they are great for gathering hexagons, as there are many racing missions on Gen 1 that use the Stalker, and loads of things will be useful with the Stalker on Gen 1, especially exploring the ocean biome, as it can float on top of water like you saw there earlier in the B-roll, and it is also a really great swimmer as well. It deals a good enough amount of damage, and it can travel across the map really fast with insane agility, and on Gen 1, this is really your only option. Next up, we have the Managarmr, and this thing mainly does come down to if your game is behaving, and thanks to the net gun now, these things aren't the most irritating tame, so they are a lot lower on the list than they would have been before the net gun came out, as when these things bug out, which is most of the time, still to this day, a normal trap will not work at all. These things will just completely glitch out of them, and there's nothing which you can do, and considering how fast they are, you're not going to be able to catch up to one and just continually shoot tranks into it, unless you've got literally hours and hours to tame a Managarmr, but that is so inefficient, and you should really try and get a net gun, as it is one of the most useful things as well, and probably surround it by a trap for good measure as well, as it gives you a long periods to build a trap around the Managarmr. And another reason why the net gun is so good for the Managarmr is you don't even have to really worry about putting this thing into a trap, as that is definitely not an easy task. But once tamed, you got yourself a great PvE and PvP creature, capable of a lot of things, but you should be careful so that it doesn't get stuck into things like it did there. But its main kind of fame is the fact that it can freeze creatures, and freeze creatures for so long, which makes it great for PvP, but it is actually pretty useful in PvE. If you're into freezing creatures and then killing them, it's a new kind of fun way to kill off some creatures. Next up, we have the Wyvern, and the reason why this is harder and more irritating to tame than the Managarmr is because no net gun is going to save you here for this tame, as its tame method is completely different. And if you're wondering about the Crystal Wyvern, if you don't know how to tame that, that is one of Ark's easiest tames, and it definitely is not deserving of the list. But every other Wyvern, being the Ice Wyverns, the Fire Wyverns, etc., like Poison Wyverns, things like that, those Wyverns where it requires you to go into the Wyvern Trench and steal that egg from the Wyvern Trench. Don't know what word trying to came out there. Re-steal, you're not re-stealing anything, but either way, you're going to steal that egg from the Wyvern Trench, and that is actually one of the hardest Ark tasks which you can do. It sounds very simple on paper, but you need a creature which is fast enough to get in and get out. You need to be stealthy enough that the Wyverns don't catch you until obviously you steal the egg. Then there's nothing you can really do there. They're all just going to aggro onto you. And then also you're going to need to get out of there as well with the egg and not die. And also you're going to need all of the equipment to raise that egg as well. But it is all worth it after all, unless you're on Crystal Isles. Just get a Crystal Wyvern. There isn't really a point. Get a Blood Crystal Wyvern even. But once you do have a normal Wyvern, their C-flap ability on the ground is really good for harvesting wood, and they're great carnivores. They can pick up so many things. They do so much damage. They're really, really useful flyers, and actually one of the fastest in the game. You can't really go wrong with the Wyvern. Just be careful when taming one. And now this slightly does contradict my opinion when I was talking about the Giganotosaurus, but I will say the Giga is a much more irritating tame than the Giganotosaurus, as the prep is absolutely insane for this thing compared to the Kark. And this thing is just so much more irritating to prepare for, and also when taming, this thing can go really, really wrong, whereas the Giganotosaurus, you kind of have a little bit of like safe protection in a sense that you're going to have Gilly when taming one. And, you know, they can't go into Blood Rage really that easily once you start taming it. Whereas a Giga, they are just some of the most annoying creatures. They'll either really, really want to aggro onto you, or they'll just simply run away. And yes, you can get them into a trap, but sometimes trapping them can be an absolute pain, and especially on ASA with the new Dino AI. And the amount of tranks you need for this thing is absolutely insane, and it will take a huge amount of time to get all of those tranks, and especially on official. And breeding these things is even more irritating yet, as on official rates it takes up to 2 weeks to raise a baby Giga, and who has time for that? But on my rates, the Giga on my world on single player will raise in about, I think I've got it as about an hour and a half when I timed it last, which is still a really long amount of time, and the Giga is definitely an irritating tame. In at number 5 is the Golem. And why is the Golem so difficult of a tame? And it's mainly because Ark has something called cannons, if you didn't know, and they are some of the most annoying things to control in the Ark game. Their range of movement is so bad. If you could simply just press WASD for the cannon to move, this would be a significantly easier tame. But trying to aim a cannon, especially on a Paraceratherium, if you're using that on Scorched Earth, it can be an absolute pain to trap this thing in the first place and then actually aim in the right place every time, as these are a moving targets. They move around, they can move everywhere. And also the taming resource is a bit of a weird one as well, being stones or metal, or I think it likes sulfur the best, but you know, you can correct me on that one if I'm wrong. I don't really do many rock golem tames, which can be a little bit irritating, but that isn't the most irritating thing you'll face. And once tamed, you'll definitely be glad that you tame one of these things, as they are some of the absolute biggest beasts on Scorched Earth, and are a must-have at some point, and really are a big Ark experience, which you'll remember once tamed. Now, continuing the list, we have the Rhyniognatha, and this is definitely one of Ark's most irritating tames, but why else would it be on this list? And this thing is such an irritating tame, and the lengthy process through this is, yes, albeit fun, but albeit very irritating at the same time. And there's no point me just saying this tame is irritating without actually telling you how to tame one. Firstly, I'm going to talk about actually finding a Rhyniognatha, which is incredibly difficult as these things are really rare. If you're on normal Ark still, you can always use Creature Finder Deluxe, raise the dino weights, or do a dino wipe using the Destroy All Wild Dinos command, or the Destroy Wild Dinos command, not the Destroy All Wild Dinos command. Either way, that command will be on screen right now. And also you can check out my Rhyniognatha taming guide if you want a less brief summary and a full tutorial on how to tame one. In terms of the actual tame though, obviously apart from that initial prep of finding one, you'll need to find a male one, by the way. At least I think you need to find a male one. Either way, you need to kill that male Rhyniognatha and then get the pheromone out of it. And then once you've got that pheromone, get yourself something like a Bronto. The Bronto is definitely the recommended creature here, and by the time you'll be taming a Rhyniognatha, a Bronto will be very easy for you to tame. And also, if you want 100% effectiveness, those resources which were just on screen, you will need all of them. Yes, all of them. And then your net gun the Rhyniognatha, don't even bother trying to use anything else. Then take it down to the lowest amount of health you can without killing it. Obviously, you don't want to kill it. It's like the Reaper tame. You want to take its health down, and I think it will glow a different color. It will glow like an orangey kind of glow, or obviously you can use the magnifying glass on official, or if you have mods on normal Ark, not ASA. I don't know why I'm calling it normal Ark. They are both still Ark. Then you can obviously use the awesome spyglass, really great mods. Then before it's kind of awoken out of the trap, which you obviously use the net gun for that, you fill the pheromone to your Bronto, and then after that, I don't know why my pronunciation's so bad at the moment, but after that you do feed it to the Bronto, and then when it comes out, it will impregnate your dino, and that's where you're going to need all those resources which were previously on screen. Then your creature will just fall over, and then the Rhyniognatha will come out of it, and then you have yourself a tamed baby Rhyniognatha, and unlike Reaper babies, it won't kill you. Speaking of the Reaper, in at number 3 is the Reaper, and the Reaper really is one of those tames which you can't say is an easy one, unless you're on Gen 2, but I'm kind of going to discount that, and it is definitely an irritating one, and arguably a lot more irritating than the Rhyniognatha, as you do not have access to flyers on Operation, so it is so much harder to start the tame, as this thing spawns in a significantly more hostile biome. But in terms of the actual tame, there are actually less steps. You just take it down to that low amount of health, then it will impregnate you, and then you just go around killing things with yourself, as in your person character, as in if you were gathering XP to level up, it will just essentially level up the Reaper baby inside you. You also want some Reaper pheromone glands, and then once that Reaper baby is born, you will have yourself a little Reaper baby, which obviously is just going to instantly kill you, but you know, you've kind of just got to get used to that, and if you do use the Reaper pheromone glands, it's going to be a lot easier to you, as it will think it is your mother. And then obviously over time it will kind of look more like a Reaper and less like a kind of earworm, those things, whatever those bugs are called, like earworm, earwig. It's an earwig, isn't it? It will look less like that and more like a Reaper, and then you have yourself a successful Reaper tame. If you want to know how to tame one easy on Gen 2 though, just watch Razbug's tutorial and you have no fuss and no irritation. In at number 2 is the Basilisk, and this tame also does involve eggs, but not like something like the Wyvern, Magmasaur, or those kind of tames. The Rock Drake included in that as well. In terms of the Basilisk tame, you will need a Magmasaur, Wyvern, or Rock Drake egg, probably Rock Drake eggs, as you'll probably be taming this thing on Operation. Then you'll need it to not aggro onto you, and then just drop the eggs, and then it will eat them. Sounds really easy, but it can go wrong in so many ways, as you have to literally completely eradicate every creature in the area for it not to be aggroed, and you can't aggro it yourself, and obviously it's Operation, so no flyers can be used. There's just so much prep, and also getting all of those Rock Drake eggs is a feat in itself, and that is even if the game doesn't bug out and then this thing doesn't even eat the Rock Drake eggs. Definitely a very irritating tame, but once you get it right and it's started, it's not too bad from there, and you have yourself a really cool, neat Basilisk, which has a wealth of abilities. And finally, in at number 1 is the Shadowmane. And yes, I'll agree, this isn't the hardest Ark tame, but in my opinion, it is the uttermost irritating. There is no other Ark creature out there which I kind of find as irritating to tame as the Shadowmane, in my opinion. Its tame method seems very simple, again like the Basilisk. You will just get baby fish in a fish trap, not baby fish, you'll get normal fish in a fish trap. Baby fish don't even exist. What am I talking about? You can tell it is very late on a Wednesday evening when I'm recording this thing. And yeah, once you've got those fish, then you'll need to find one when it's sleeping, go up behind it, and then passive feed it those fish, and keep repeating that process. Obviously, you want gilly as well, so it doesn't wake up. But the thing is, these things come in packs, and they kind of do patrols, and sometimes some will be awake, and some will be asleep. And also, they're really easy to wake up. And yes, with a trap, they're not the most irritating thing out there, but still, to me, they are the most irritating. I don't care what any of you say in the comments. This is the most irritating Ark tame in my opinion, and no creature can top it. But oh wait, I forgot one more. it up for our patrons, Ekaterina Puchkova and Karina Thorne, Dominic Maciejewski, sorry about that name, and everyone else that's on this list. All the people I've mentioned are paid members, and if you feel like that's something you want a shout out at the end of the video, go join the Patreon or become a paid YouTube member.